Missed all the Easter talk. Happy.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to our regular council meeting, the day after April Fool's Day, April the 2nd. I'm going to start with a adoption of the agenda.
Your Worship.
Seconded?
Your Worship.
Yes.
I'd like to add a late agenda item. It would be the correspondence that came from Micklot about the planning for their women's shelter. I believe that was a bit time sensitive and thought we should put it on today's agenda.
Thank you. It's been circulated earlier. So we have an agenda, an adopted, amended agenda. Did you second it? All right. Any discussion on the amendment? All in favor?
This maybe where is it going to go on the agenda?
We'll ask our corporate officer.
Where would that item go on our agenda?
We'll include that in the amendment, section 15. Okay, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor of the amended? All in favor of the motion as amended? Unanimous. Motion to close the meeting to the public. Who would like to make that motion? Councillor Elliott.
I move that council move into a closed meeting to discuss matters covered by the community charter under sections 91A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality, and F, law enforcement, if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the conduct of an investigation under or enforcement of an enactment.
Seconded by Councillor Palm. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion? Passes unanimously. We will reconvene at 7 o'clock. So, welcome back. We're going to reconvene our April 2nd council meeting. Start with acknowledgement that we're holding this on the traditional lands of the Klamath Nation. We'll move to our public input period. Do you wish to make a public input? Do we have anybody online? Move to the consent agenda. Do you wish to make the Councillor Elliott?
I would move the consent agenda. And for those of you who might have noticed my tie, it is for National Autism Awareness Day in and around the world. And so my friend Ian Landry, who's principal of the Pie School where my son goes, he makes them. And I told him I'd wear one to the council meeting today to bring awareness to Autism Day if he let me have one, and he did. So that's what that's about.
Excellent. So we have a motion for the consent agenda, seconded by Councillor Almeida. All in favor? Thank you. And I just acknowledge that I did notice the beautiful bow tie, and my timing was a little off. But thanks you, Councillor Elliott. We'll move now to our Move now to 9.1, which is the adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting held March 19th, 2026.
That was the consent agenda. We just did that.
Thank you very much. I take this off, I might be able to see what I'm reading. Thank you. Legislative matters, sanitary, sewer, and storm drain source control. Corporate officer. Oh, I just want to add that unfortunately our CAO was feeling a little under the weather, so that's why that chair is empty this evening.
And Councillor Isaacson as well.
I believe these are just for adoption, so corporate officers waiting for us to take lead, I think. So I'll move that sanitary sewer and storm drain source control bylaw 2054-2005, amendment bylaw 2795-2026 be adopted.
Second by Councillor Southcott. Any discussion? All in favor? Passed unanimously. 7.2 Bylaw Enforcement Officer Bylaw 2793-2026. Councillor Almeida.
Keep it moving. I move that bylaw enforcement officer bylaw 2793-2026 be adopted.
All right, Councillor Southcott. Any discussion? All in favor? Financial plan 11.3.
Move that 2026 to 2030 financial plan bylaw 2794-2026 be adopted.
Councillor Southcott. All in favor? Passed unanimously. I'm going to ask our corporate officer whether or not these should be dealt individually or whether they can be dealt with collectively.
Thank you, Your Worship. It would be appropriate if someone wishes to move bylaws 2796 through 2813 for adoption as set out in the agenda, if you wish.
Thank you. Councillor Almeida.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that bylaws 2796-2026 through to bylaw 2813-2026 as set out in the agenda be adopted.
Second by Scott. Any discussion? All in favor? Passes unanimously. So that went right through to 11.5. Thank you. Now move to unfinished business.
We have to do 11.5.
We have to do 11.5. All right. Councilor Almeida, are you going to,
Nope.
you're going to talk to it?
Good evening, Your Worship, Council. Report in front of you tonight is for the purchase of 2 waste collection trucks. These were in the budget for the past few years. They replaced some vehicles that are long in the tooth. They've been operating for 9.5 years, collecting solid waste for us. So we did do a tender recently. We received 4 compliant bids. And I believe this is the lowest bid. Sorry, slightly low, second lowest bid. It is a good vehicle, and it comes with an automated arm like the rest of our fleet. It should fit right in. And because it's over $500,000 purchase, it needs to come to you directly for approval. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Councilor Almeida.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just curious, it's only a couple $1,000 difference, but I was just curious what made the choice between this vehicle and the one that was slightly lower, as they both seemed similar models and different, or same engine, I guess, with different chassis or something?
Yes, through the chair, it's very, very similar vehicles. One is a Kenworth, the one that we're recommending. The second one, the lowest price one, is a Mack. And with the proprietary software of the Mack, it makes it a little bit more difficult for staff to maintain them. They just need to jump through a few more hoops to diagnose things. So the Kenworth is a little bit more open software, and they can tackle it easier.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for this. So for a long time, there have been questions about electric vehicles. I do recall clearly your report, that they basically don't measure up as well as they need to, particularly because of the really harsh use. Has there been any change in that since you last reported to us, which I think was about a year ago?
Sure, through the chair. Yes, we did ask for other options as well. So we did say specifically in the tender that electric and hybrid options would be entertained, because they make a hybrid option as well. It's both battery and diesel, and a full electric. But the last time we evaluated these on a cost recovery basis and a life cycle costing, was still more expensive to run the battery electric, even taking into account the savings on fuel and savings on no oil changes and things like that with the electrics. But overall, the increased price with the electrics was still much more over the lifespan of the vehicle. So they're still a little bit more expensive. They've come down, I will say that. And then there's some question about the ability to service a full day for us, just to be as robust as the diesels are for us, kind of thing. So, and we didn't get any electric bids this time, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, through the chair. I'm going to ask the tough question that I'm getting from the public, and because they need to know the answer, and that is, in terms of our financial health in the city of Powell River at the present time and our current tax hike that we're proposing this year, citizens are saying, well, why couldn't you put off purchasing these 2 vehicles for another year or 2 to give us some relief on taxation? However, what I believe I'm going to hear from you is the money that is used to purchase these vehicles comes out of a vehicle reserve and cannot be used for other purposes. Is that correct?
I'm going to give you, through the chair, I'll give you an answer, and then I'll ask our CFO maybe to chime in as well. The one thing I will say is that the entire program for solid waste collection is its own separate utility. So it's not funded by taxes. It used to be at one point in time. Best practices are that municipalities don't fund their utilities through taxes. So it's funded separately by the solid waste rate altogether. So the other point is that our rates in the region in comparison with our neighbors are almost exactly mid-pack. So we're doing something right, I will say, as far as affordability for the community. And I see our CFO is on the screen there. Ken, if you wanted to chime in.
Sure, through the chair. Yes, the funds for these two vehicles are coming from a dedicated vehicle and equipment reserve, set aside monies specifically for purchases of such vehicles and equipment. And these funds are not used for other purposes.
Thank you. I just wanted the public to be aware that that is the situation. Thank you very much.
Councillor Haley.
Thank you, Your Worship. I recall during a previous conversation too that as the vehicles age, the maintenance expenses sometimes make it more expensive to hold on to the older trucks versus the newer trucks. I was really happy to hear that they're under budget. And as a follow-up question to Councillor Southcott's points, the exploration of electric as an alternative, do we know what price fuel has to hit before it makes it more economical to have the more electric driven vehicles?
Through the chair, I could probably do some math later for you, but I think at the moment it's still more advantageous for us, full cost recovery wise, to run the diesels. At this point in time, I'd have to run some numbers to see what ceiling it would make sense for. But the only other issue with that is when we did look at fully electric, it wasn't quite robust enough for us to do full service day on a regular basis.
Yeah, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Southcott.
Thank you, Your Worship. Noticing the prices of diesel, I do recall from, recently and hoping that they'll, like everybody, hoping that they'll come down at some point, but when does anything like that come down? Of course, that's artificially high. I recall that we have a contract for fuel with our fuel supplier. Is that altered by the changes that have just occurred internationally in the diesel supply particularly, or are we still guaranteed a price that is lower?
Through the chair, we do experience the fluctuations that the market does experience. So we do get those ups and downs as a customer of our large volume contract. However, we do reap a benefit of having a less expensive fuel per liter than typically I could get, kind of thing.
Thank you.
That brings another question to mind that I'm getting from the public, Your Worship, and through the chair. I'd like to hear the explanation. Currently, from what I'm hearing, a number of employees are taking their vehicles home each night and returning the next day at city expense for fuel. And some of these are quite far south of town, that type of thing. Do we have any idea on how many vehicles are being used by employees to get to work and back?
Yes, through the chair, there are vehicles that go home with supervisors. So these are the staff that are on call for, say, the water system or the sewer system. And those are the vehicles that go home with the supervisors. And it's an on-call thing as well. A lot of them rotate so that different people take them home, whoever's on call, kind of thing.
Thank you. Appreciate the answer.
We have a recommendation. Somebody wish to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Almeida.
I move that council award the purchase of 2 automated waste collection trucks to Rollins Machinery Limited in the amount of $1,166,118.10, including PST.
Councilor Southcott. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move to 12.1, which is a staff report subsequent to a request from the Klamath Nation.
Yes. I'm
Wait.
going to just open something. So we had a delegation from the new Quaquins Forest Company, which is an arm of the Klamath Nation that bought the TFL. And they had asked us for a letter of support for their public interest process for getting approval for transfer of that license. And so we also at the community forest were doing a similar exercise for increasing our AAC. And my understanding is Klamath has provided us a letter, and I am hoping that this new arrangement works very, very well for the community. And so I'm going to read the recommendation that council direct staff to prepare a letter of support based on the template provided by Klamath Nation, supporting approval of the purchase of Western Forest Products, Stillwater Forest Operations by Quaquins Forestry Holdings.
Southcott. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Passes unanimously. We'll do a rise and report from our closed meeting earlier today. And at that meeting, it was resolved that council appoint Lori Brown, Greg Hempel, and Holly McCamey as directors on the Powell River Community Forest Board for a 3-year term effective April 15th, 2026. Next item 14.2 is Powell River Community Forest Limited appointment of shareholders authorized representatives. The corporate officer like to comment before we discuss?
Thank you, Mayor. This item is one that council deals with on an annual basis. It's the appointment of a member of council as the authorized representative of the city being the sole shareholder of the Powell River Community Forest Ltd. I think at present it is Sir Elliott currently serving as the representative, and Councillor Palm as the alternate. Council may choose to reappoint these members or appoint new representatives.
Thank you. Any questions for a corporate officer? Yes.
I don't have a question. I was going to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that council appoint the mayor, Mayor Wasno, as the shareholder and Councillor Palm as the backup.
For the seconder? Second. For discussion? Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Palm.
Yeah, I'm not sure why Councillor Dowd has made this proposal, but it's in line with the way we've done business with our community forest for a number of years, where the mayor has been the lead with the community forest board for most of the time that I've been here. That changed up recently with Councillor Elliott being appointed. I think the mayor should be there. It's very important, and He has a good relationship with our community forest board. And at the same time, I appreciate being the alternate in that regard. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, we have a motion. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, 4-2, so the motion passes. Now move to 14.4, which is the Island Coastal Economic Trust Letter of Support. Are you coming forward?
I'm actually coming to speak to item 14.3.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sorry about that. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report is to provide an update regarding the spring 2026 grant process, along with a recommendation brought forward from the Powell River Community Forest Working Group for Council consideration. The Powell River Community Forest Working Group met on March 11th to discuss several items, including a review of the granting processes for the community grant program. Working group members discussed the objectives of the program, the exclusions set out in Council Policy 261, as well as examples of recent grants that were not in alignment with the policy. Members agreed that the intention moving forward is for the Community Forest Reserve grants to align with Policy 261. Working group members also discussed the September 18th, 2025 motion regarding priorities and recommended that Council confirm that the motion had expired and no longer applied to the spring 2026 grant cycle, thus the motion before you. The working group members also agreed to a process for the spring 2026 grants, which will see applications close on April 7th. Initial review of applications to determine eligibility in accordance with the policy will be undertaken by myself by April 20th. The Powell River Community Forest Board will then review all the applications deemed eligible and make the recommendations to Council, again by May the 8th. And then we're hoping that Council will receive the recommendations on May 21st. And finally, in advance of the fall 2026 grant cycle, the application form for the Powell River Community Forest grants will be revised to better align with the Council Policy 261. And similarly, the application form for permissive tax exemptions for the 2027 taxation year underwent a similar revision recently, again, with the intention of better aligning with Policy 261. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we did have a motion for the fall process that has expired. And as we move through that process, Council wasn't, it was a little bit hard to implement because the priorities that were set out by Council weren't necessarily applicable to the final projects that were approved. And so I think if we are to make recommendations that we don't use to make decisions with, that's potentially problematic for administrative fairness of administering our program. And I just wanted maybe some feedback from staff about my understanding of that.
Well, it's through the chair, it's difficult for me to comment on that specific, the priorities that were set because I was not on staff at that time, and nor did I evaluate the grants at that time. But what I did find when I was reviewing the last two grant cycles was that there were a number that were not aligned with the policy. So the intention of the work that we're planning to do this spring is actually go back to the actual policy and align our grants and eligibility with the policy. And then the working group had recommended at that meeting that they have Council just confirm that those priorities that were set in September had expired and will not be applicable for the upcoming grant cycle. So I'm sorry, I don't have any further comment on what it would have been like, but hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, I was looking more for comment around how important it is for us to have a way to ensure that we're sticking to our policies, and these motions about confirming our priorities, are they a policy? Are they just an expression of priority without any impact on decisions? What would be the purpose to confirm or that it's not there, or to confirm that it is there, or to set priorities as far as our process goes? And I'm speaking strictly on an administrative basis. I'm not trying to get you to comment on our priorities.
Again, through the chair, thank you, Councillor, for the question. I've had many years of experience in terms of grant making into communities. And I'm not wanting to overstep here, but it's been my experience that boards and or councils of funding organizations often do set priorities, and those priorities are what determine the type of grants that will be selected that year or during that grant cycle. I really can't comment on whether those priorities were accepted or adopted during the past fall cycle, but that is something that's not unusual at all, is to establish priorities.
Thank you.
Councillor Palm.
Your Worship, I'm going to read the recommendation, being part of the working team to have this presented tonight. It streamlines the process, takes out some of the ambiguities that we ran into the last intake, and streamlines the process between the Community Forest Board and our staff to vet each of the proposals that come forward. And I think it will serve us well on a go-forward basis. And I really appreciate the work of staff and the experience they bring to the table in this regard. So without further ado, I will recommend, pursuant to the report of the interim manager, partnerships, intergovernmental and public relations, dated for the council meeting of April 2nd, 2026, entitled Powell River Community Forest, PRCF, Spring Grant Process Update, the council confirmed that its September 18th, 2025 motion regarding the current priorities as follows has expired. That council confirmed their current priorities for the Powell River Community Forest nonprofit grant program are for health-related facilities, affordable housing, recreation, culture, and social goals for youth, and reconciliation.
Do we have a seconder for the motion? Second by Councillor Southcott. Any further discussion? Councillor Almeida.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I read this one way the first time, and after Councillor Elliott's question, I read it again. So if I'm understanding the motion as I'm reading it now, this means that leading into this round of community forest grants, there are no set priorities that the Community Forest Board will be looking at. It'll be open to the bylaw 261 as it was originally written, correct?
Through the mayor, yes.
Any further discussion before I call? Yes, Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. So I just wanted to confirm, as Councillor Palm has, that we did have a meeting with the community forest. We are working at tightening our administrative process to make sure that we are not approving projects that are outside the scope of the policy, our existing policies. And so that's great news. And so staff's going to help us with that. The addition of council priorities and not having actual policy was problematic in how we implemented that last round. So we would, in future, if we were going to have some priorities, we would have to develop a way to have it incorporated into policy that gets administered that way, rather than having it land the way it did last time. So I'm in favor of the motion, and thank staff for helping us get to this point. Thank you.
Southcott.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm in favor of this motion as well because clearly it needs to be written new for now. In reading the report and the associated documents, I have really had to reflect on city priorities, which I'm really hoping are going to be reflected in choices coming up. I don't have current figures relating to the reserve fund that is dedicated to complex capital expenditures, but I'm certainly concerned about that, particularly in light of the Pickleball Association's presentation and there 2 weeks ago, and the report from the Director of Infrastructure 2 days ago with regard to the state of the complex. So this is something that has been in my mind for a long time, and I want to see a balance move in that direction and that we never lose sight of the value of that particular facility, particularly as the community forests funds can be applied. I just really felt I needed to say that because I think it's a very important part of a larger perspective that this motion is a part of. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. I'm going to call all in favor. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Move to 14.4, which is Island Coastal Economic Trust Letter of Support. This is having attended the last meeting of the Island Coastal Economic Trust. It's very important to all of the island and coastal communities. They're in a discussion with the provincial government. And if the provincial government doesn't see support from all of the communities that would be impacted, it's likely that in 2028, we will not have ICE anymore, which I think would have a significant negative impact on communities. So in terms of any question, yes, Councilor Armida.
Yeah, I'm just going to make a motion on the fly here to support this. So then we'll go from there. But I move that council direct staff to prepare a letter of support based on the template provided, supporting the approval of the Island Coastal Economic Trust and expressing strong support to advance legislation to modernize the trust, to Minister Callon and other governmental authorities.
Doug?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this is the request for the letter from the Island Coastal Economic Trust is to respond to an independent legislative review, a case for change of the whole trust organization. And another document was First Nations Strategic Recommendations Report. And they both go along the same lines about strengthening the trust so it's available for economic development on the island and the coastal communities, which we're part of. And a couple of the main things, there's a lot of, I think there's 48 recommendations. So I'm not going to ask you to sit through them all. But I think the most important ones generally are the fact that we're asking the provincial government to actually fund the trust so there is enough money to have a continuing economic development trust going on the island and the coast. And the other part of it is to involve First Nations governments in an effective cooperative group to try to get the economic development happening. And I agree with the concept that municipalities and First Nations working together can do great things for the economics of the island and the coast if we all work together. So I support this. And if you have the time to do some reading, it's a worthy report to go and read in your spare time.
Yes. Any further discussion? All in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move to the introduction of late items, and we have one item.
Thank you.
Elliot, were you going to speak to that item or?
Yes.
Okay.
So we all received correspondence from MCLAT telling about their efforts to create a women's treatment center here in our community and asking for a letter of support to funding agencies that they're attempting to get approved funds from. So they indicate it's a bit time sensitive. They're hard pressed to get all of their things in on a deadlines to try and get funding to support a facility they're hoping to have ready by fall, is what I understand from a verbal update from Rob. Anyway, so I wanted to put a motion on the floor to have staff draft a letter of support for MCLAT as per their letter where they're asking for it for certain things. And hopefully get council support to have you sign that letter, Mayor.
Could we see whether or not we were able to capture that into a motion? Yes.
If
A seconder? Councilor Almeida. Any further questions?
Yeah, through the chair, I just have to ask the question because I cannot recollect the what was in the letter of the ask, but are there any financial implications to the city?
The letter's on the screen, and my understanding, and I'll get confirmation from our officer, is that there were no financial.
Through the chair, there are no financial implications for the city to provide letter of support. It's they're not asking us for financial support, but require our support in order for that to assist them in raising funds independently. Is the nature of the request.
Excellent. And just one other question. Do we know if they've already purchased or have housing to access?
Clearly.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Palm. So at our last community action team meeting, which was just last Monday, I believe it was, Rob Fitzpatrick provided a verbal update that they were looking at a number of options in the community at this time, had not narrowed it down to a single location as of yet, but they were very hopeful that they would potentially be operational by fall. So I'm sure they have a plan that includes making those decisions fairly quickly. The letters of support would be used in a package that go to a number of private funding foundations and so forth, and they are trying to get those out ASAP.
That update, appreciate it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. We will now move to public clarification. Would you wish to come forward with a question to clarify? Mr. Galinsky.
Thank you, Your Worship. I scribbled some notes in my agenda here. Hopefully they'll guide me. My first question was with regard to item 11.3, the financial plan bylaw, which was adopted. It seems to me that I seem to recall that there is a tax bylaw that comes after that. And I'm wondering perhaps from the Chief Financial Officer when we can expect to see that and when adoption is planned.
Through the chair, there will be a tax rate bylaw coming forward, most probably the first meeting in May for first three readings.
I appreciate that. And through the chair, I believe there's a May 15th deadline to adopt that. Am I correct?
That's correct.
I thank the CFO for the response. My second question related to automatic waste collection trucks, but I see that the manager of operational services is no longer here, so I'll have to try and address that with him directly. One last question, Your Worship. On the introduction of late items, I'm wondering if I can get a copy of the MCLAT letter.
Yes, I'm sure we can arrange that.
I see one coming.
We tend not to delay reasonable requests.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Those are my questions.
Chair, Mr. Galinsky, our Director of Infrastructure is here. He may be able to answer your question in regards to buses.
Oh, that's true. Thank you, Mr. Rollins. I appreciate that. Yes, my question related to the new trucks. And I was wondering if these two new vehicles will do all three collections, that being garbage, organics, and recycling when we get the new bins.
These are dedicated for the recycling program.
Okay, and so through the chair, then the existing trucks will probably take care of organics and garbage then. Am I correct in that?
Sorry, which trucks? Sorry.
The existing trucks.
Yes.
Okay, so these new trucks then through the chair will cover off all of the collections that will be happening after the recycling bins have been distributed.
That's correct.
Excellent. I thank you very much for the response. Thank you, Your Worship.
Do we have anybody else here in person? Do we have anybody online? Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.